The emergency lights flashed red across the massive space station called Concordia Prime. In the main council chamber, representatives from dozens of alien species sat around a circular table that stretched for hundreds of meters. The air felt thick with worry and fear. Admiral Kexathera stood at the center of the room. Her tall, crystal-like body caught the light from the holographic displays floating above the table. These displays showed star maps covered in angry red marks. Each red mark meant another solar system had fallen to the enemy. "The situation is worse than we thought," Kexathera said. Her voice had a musical quality that all Zephyrians shared. "The Vorthak Empire has taken control of the Outer Rim territories. They destroyed our defense stations in less than 6 hours. The holographic images changed to show smoking ruins floating in space. Huge ships with black hulls moved between the wreckage like sharks hunting for survivors. These were Vorthak warships, and they looked nothing like the elegant vessels used by the peaceful species of the galaxy. Councillor Veltar raised one of his 4 arms to speak. The ancient Eldari had lived for over 3,000 years and had seen many wars. His purple skin had deep lines that showed his age and wisdom. "We must act quickly," Veltar said. "The Vorthak will not stop with the Outer Rim. Their quantum weapons cut through our shields like they are made of paper. We need to bring together all our military forces." Around the table, other council members nodded in agreement. The Trilaxians clicked their claws nervously. The spider-like arachnoids moved their many eyes to watch the battle reports. Even the usually calm ethereals seemed worried as their cloud-like forms shifted colors. Speaker Nothram of the Trilaxians stood up next. His insect-like body was covered in bright blue armor, and his antenna twitched with anxiety. "We have defense treaties with 47 species. We should call upon all of them to help us fight." "Agreed," said Admiral Kexathera. "We will send messages to every member of the Galactic Council. This is not just about the Outer Rim anymore. If the Vorthak continue their advance, they will threaten the core worlds." As the council members began discussing which fleets could respond fastest, a quiet voice spoke from near the entrance of the chamber. "Earth would be happy to help." Everyone turned to look at Daniel Carter, the human ambassador. He was a middle-aged man with brown hair and kind eyes. He wore a simple blue uniform that looked plain compared to the elaborate clothing of the other species. The chamber fell completely silent. Daniel stepped forward, not understanding why everyone had stopped talking. "The Earth Defense Forces are ready to assist," Daniel continued. "We have several battle groups that could reach the conflict zone within 3 days." Speaker Nothram jumped up so quickly that his chair fell over. His antennae were now moving frantically, and his voice rose to almost a shout. "Please, whatever you do, don't let the human battleships join the war." The peaceful atmosphere in the chamber disappeared instantly. Council members began talking all at once. Some were arguing in languages that sounded like music, others in harsh clicking sounds, and a few in electronic beeps and whistles. Admiral Kexathera raised her hand for silence, but it took several minutes before the noise died down. Daniel Carter stood in the middle of it all, looking confused and a little hurt. "I don't understand," Daniel said. "Earth has always honored its agreements with the Galactic Council. We want to help defend innocent people." Councillor Veltar spoke carefully, choosing his words like he was walking through a minefield. "Ambassador Carter, we appreciate Earth's willingness to help. However, there are concerns about human military methods." "What kind of concerns?" Daniel asked. The question hung in the air like a dangerous storm cloud. Several council members looked at each other nervously. Finally, Speaker Nothram answered. "Do you remember the Pirate War 50 years ago?" Nothram asked. Daniel nodded. Of course. The human fleet helped end that conflict quickly. "You call it helping," said Admiral Kexthera. "Your ships arrived to negotiate with the pirate leaders. Instead, they completely destroyed 27 pirate ships, 3 space stations, and accidentally damaged a nearby moon." "We were defending ourselves," Daniel said. "The pirates shot first." "They fired one warning shot," Counselor Veltar explained patiently. "Your fleet responded by launching every weapon you had. The explosion was visible from 6 star systems away." Daniel looked uncomfortable. "That was an accident. We've improved our targeting system since then." This did not make the council members feel better. In fact, several of them moved their chairs further away from the human ambassador. "There was also the incident at Kepler Station," added Speaker Nothram. "When terrorists took hostages, your captain asked for permission to conduct a surgical strike. The next thing we knew, the entire terrorist fleet was gone, along with most of the space debris in that sector." "We saved all the hostages," Daniel pointed out. "Yes, but you also created a new asteroid field," Admiral Kexthera said. "What humans call a surgical strike requires emergency evacuation of everything within 50,000 kilometers. The holographic displays changed to show old video footage. The council members watched as human ships fired weapons that seemed too large for vessels their size. The explosions that followed were bright enough to hurt their eyes even through the recordings." "Your military doctrine is unique," Counselor Veltar said diplomatically. "When most species say minimal force, they mean using the smallest weapon possible. When humans say minimal force, they mean only using half their weapons instead of all of them." Daniel tried to defend his people. "Earth forces are very effective. We always complete our missions successfully." "That's exactly the problem," Speaker Nothram said. "Human success usually involves explosions that can be seen from other galaxies." The chamber erupted in arguments again. Some council members thought they should give humans a chance. Others worried that human help might cause more damage than the Vorthak invasion. Admiral Kexthera called for a formal vote. One by one, the species representatives cast their decisions. When the counting finished, the result was clear. "The Galactic Council thanks Earth for its generous offer," Admiral Kexthera announced. "However, we respectfully ask that human forces continue their current patrol duties and maintain defensive positions around Earth's solar system." Daniel Carter's shoulders sagged with disappointment. "Are you sure? We really want to help." "We know you do," Counselor Veltar said kindly. "And that's exactly why we're saying no." As the council session ended and the representatives filed out of the chamber, many of them were already wondering if they had made the right choice. The Vorthak Empire was powerful and dangerous. But was it worse than accidentally letting the humans loose on the galaxy? Only time would tell if the decision to keep humanity out of the war would save them all or doom them to defeat. General Patricia Hayes stood in the war room at Earth's Strategic Command, watching the holographic display show the latest battle reports from the galactic frontier. Red indicators marked each system that had fallen to the Vorthak Empire. The red zone was growing larger every day. "Well," General Hayes said to her staff, "at least we don't have to worry about accidentally destroying half the galaxy this time." Colonel Ryan Murphy, her chief of staff, looked up from his datapad. "You don't sound disappointed that the council rejected our offer to help." "Honestly, I'm relieved," Patricia admitted. I was already running calculations on how to explain to the president why we turned 3 star systems into cosmic dust clouds. The other officers in the room chuckled nervously. They all knew about humanity's reputation among the alien species. What humans considered normal military operations, the rest of the galaxy saw as acts of mass destruction. The Trilaxians were probably having nightmares about us showing up, said Colonel Murphy. Remember what happened the last time they asked for our help with that asteroid problem? Patricia nodded grimly. The Trilaxians had wanted humans to move a large asteroid that was threatening their colony world. Simple job. Just nudge it into a safer orbit using careful rocket thrust. Instead, the human engineering team had decided it would be easier to blow up the asteroid completely. The explosion was so powerful that it created a beautiful new ring system around the planet. The Trilaxians were grateful, but also terrified. Sir, interrupted Commander Helen Brooks from the intelligence section, we have a problem. Helen was Earth's top expert on alien military technology. She spent her days studying enemy weapons and tactics, looking for threats to human space. What kind of problem? Patricia asked. I've been analyzing the Vorthak weapons that destroyed the Zephyrian defense fleet, Helen said. She activated a new holographic display that showed detailed scans of alien technology. These quantum disruptors are unlike anything we've seen before. They're specifically designed to counter conventional galactic defensive systems. Crystal hulls, energy shields, even psychic barriers, the Vorthak can cut through all of them. Colonel Murphy studied the data. What about human defensive systems? That's what worries me, Helen replied. Our defenses are based on completely different principles. We use thick armor and redundant systems instead of energy shields. But if the Vorthak adapt their weapons to target human technology... She let the sentence hang in the air. Everyone in the room understood the implications. Earth had always relied on the fact that human military technology was so different from galactic norms that most enemies couldn't figure out how to fight it effectively. How long before they get close enough to threaten Earth? Patricia asked. At their current rate of advance, they'll reach the edge of human space in 6 months, Helen said, if they decide to attack us directly. General Hayes walked over to the main strategic display. It showed the entire local galaxy, with Earth sitting safely in its little corner of space. For decades, that corner had been peaceful and secure. Admiral Hudson, she called out. Admiral Frank Hudson stepped forward from where he had been quietly listening. Yes, General? The Galactic Council wants us to provide strategic consultation. Can we do that without actually getting involved in the fighting? We can try, Admiral Hudson said, though I'm not sure how useful our advice will be. Human tactics tend to involve overwhelming firepower and aggressive maneuvering. Most alien species prefer careful planning and gradual advances. What do you mean? Asked Colonel Murphy. Admiral Hudson activated another display showing comparative battle tactics. When we plan an attack, we calculate how much damage we need to cause to achieve victory. Then we add 50% more firepower just to be safe. That's just good planning, Patricia said. Exactly. But when alien species plan an attack, they calculate the minimum force needed to achieve their goals. Then they use exactly that amount, and no more. Dr. Nathan Price, Earth's chief expert on alien psychology, joined the conversation. He was a thin man with thick glasses who spent most of his time trying to understand how alien minds worked. The fundamental problem, Dr. Price explained, is that humans and aliens have completely different concepts of appropriate force. What we consider a careful, measured response, they see as a devastating attack. Can we adapt our methods? General Bumpke Hayes asked. "We've been trying for decades," Dr. Price replied. "But human military culture is based on the idea that if you're going to fight, you fight to win quickly and decisively. Alien military culture is based on the idea that fighting should be minimized and limited." Admiral Hudson pulled up a report from the frontier. "Captain Morgan and the Defiance are conducting extended patrols near the combat zone. She's gathering intelligence on Vorthak capabilities." "Good," Patricia said. "Make sure she knows to observe only. No engagement unless directly attacked." "I've already sent those orders," Admiral Hudson confirmed. "Though knowing Captain Morgan, she'll probably find some creative way to interpret them if she sees civilians in danger." General Hayes understood that problem. Human military officers were trained to protect innocent people, even when it meant bending the rules. It was an admirable quality, but it often led to situations that got out of hand quickly. "What about the rest of our fleet?" she asked. "All ships are maintaining defensive positions around our colonies," Admiral Hudson reported. "We have battle groups standing by in case the Vorthak turn toward human space." Colonel Murphy looked at the strategic display again. "General, what if the Council changes their mind? What if they get desperate enough to ask for our help?" Patricia considered this carefully. "Then we'll help them, but we'll need to be very careful about how we do it." "Define careful," Dr. Price said. "We'll try to limit ourselves to one planet-cracking explosion per engagement," Patricia replied with a completely straight face. The room fell silent for a moment before everyone realized she was joking. The nervous laughter that followed showed how worried they all were about the situation. "Seriously, though," Patricia continued, "if we do get called in, we need to have plans ready. Plans that minimize collateral damage and keep our helpful destruction to a minimum." "I'll start working on modified engagement protocols," Admiral Hudson said, "though I'm not sure how to tell our ships to shoot gently." Commander Brooks raised her hand. "What about using our older ships, the ones with less powerful weapons?" "Our oldest active battleship can still glass a continent," Colonel Murphy pointed out. "I'm not sure that counts as less powerful by galactic standards." General Hayes walked back to the main display and stared at the growing red zone that marked Vorthak conquests. Part of her hoped the alien species could handle the threat themselves, but another part of her suspected that eventually someone would come asking for the humans to save the day. And when that happened, she would have to find a way to save the galaxy without accidentally destroying it in the process. Captain Lisa Morgan sat in her command chair aboard the UES Defiance, watching the news reports from the Galactic Council meeting. The bridge crew around her worked quietly at their stations, but she could tell they were all listening to the broadcast. "Turn it off," Lisa said finally. "We've heard enough." The main screen went dark, leaving only the stars visible through the front windows. Lisa rubbed her temples and tried not to feel frustrated. She had been hoping for some real action instead of another month of boring patrol duty. "Captain," said her communications officer, "Admiral Hudson is calling from Earth Command." "Put him through." Admiral Frank Hudson appeared on the screen. He was an older man with gray hair and tired eyes. Behind him, Lisa could see the busy command center at Earth's military headquarters. "I suppose you heard the news?" Admiral Hudson said. "Yes, sir. The Council doesn't want our help." "Can't say I blame them," the Admiral replied. "Do you remember what happened at Kepler Station?" Lisa nodded. She had been there as a young lieutenant, serving under Captain Roberts on the cruiser Warrior. The memory still made her uncomfortable. "We were trying to rescue the hostages," Lisa said, The terrorists had taken over the station and threatened to kill everyone inside. Tell me what happened next. Lisa sighed. Captain Roberts asked the terrorists to surrender. When they refused and started shooting, he ordered us to disable their ships. We used our point defense guns to target their engines. And the terrorists were using old cargo ships with cheap fuel tanks. When our lasers hit them, the ships exploded much bigger than we expected. The explosions chain-reacted through their entire fleet. Admiral Hudson nodded grimly. 26 ships destroyed in 40 seconds. The blast was so bright that ships 3 systems away thought a star had gone supernova. We saved the hostages, Lisa said quietly. Yes, but we also accidentally created a debris field that's still dangerous to navigation 15 years later. Trade ships have to take a detour that adds 2 weeks to their journey. The Admiral's expression softened slightly. Lisa, I know you and your crew are good people. All our military personnel are. But we have to face facts about how we fight wars. Lisa leaned back in her chair. She knew what he meant, but it still bothered her. We can't help it if our weapons are more powerful than alien technology. It's not just the weapons, Admiral Hudson said. It's how we think about combat. When other species plan a battle, they try to minimize damage. When we plan a battle, we try to maximize effectiveness. On the bridge, Lisa's tactical officer, Commander Tony Walsh, was pulling up old battle reports on his screen. He was reviewing the infamous Battle of Proxima 7, where human forces had tried to help defend a mining colony. Captain, Tony said, remember when we lightly bombarded those pirate positions? Lisa winced. The human fleet had thought they were being careful. They used their smallest orbital bombardment weapons and aimed only at military targets. Unfortunately, the explosions were so powerful that they changed the planet's weather patterns for 6 months. The colonists were grateful, Tony continued, but they also asked us never to help them again. Admiral Hudson heard this conversation through the comm link. That's exactly what I mean. Our idea of a light attack would be considered a war crime by most galactic species. So what are we supposed to do? Lisa asked. Just sit here while good people die? For now, yes. The Council has asked us to maintain our current patrol pattern and provide strategic consultation only. Lisa looked around her bridge. The Defiance was a mid-sized cruiser by human standards, but it carried enough firepower to level a small continent. Her crew of 200 was trained to fight against enemies that might have planet-killing weapons. Admiral, Lisa said, what if the Vorthak Empire decides to attack Earth? Our intel reports say they have some kind of superweapon. Then we'll defend ourselves, Admiral Hudson replied firmly. But until that happens, we follow the Council's wishes. After the Admiral ended the call, Lisa sat quietly for several minutes. Her bridge crew continued their work, monitoring space traffic and checking for any signs of enemy activity. Captain, said her navigation officer, we're approaching the edge of our patrol zone. Should we turn back? Lisa looked at the star charts. They were very close to the systems where the Vorthak were attacking. She could see the flashes of distant explosions on the long-range sensors. Hold our current course, she said. We're still technically in our assigned area. Commander Walsh understood what she was doing. Conducting extended reconnaissance? Exactly. It's our job to watch for threats to Earth. We can't do that properly if we don't know what's happening in nearby systems. The truth was that Lisa wanted to help, even if she could only watch and gather information. Her crew felt the same way. They had joined the Earth Defense Forces to protect innocent people, not to sit safely at home while others fought and died. "Captain," said the sensor operator, "I'm picking up distress signals from the Arcturus system. It looks like civilian ships trying to escape the fighting." Lisa studied the tactical display. The refugee ships were small and slow. They would never outrun Vorthak pursuit craft. "Can we reach them?" she asked. "If we push our engines to maximum, yes. But we'd be entering the combat zone." Lisa thought about her orders. She was supposed to stay in human space and avoid any conflicts, but she was also supposed to protect innocent lives when possible. "Set course for the refugee ships," she decided. "If anyone asks, we're investigating potential threats to Earth shipping." "Yes, ma'am." As the Defiance turned toward the distress signals, Lisa wondered if she was making the right choice. Human ships had a reputation for causing massive destruction, even when they were trying to help. But sometimes, she thought, you had to take that risk. The alternative was to do nothing while good people died. On her tactical screen, she could see the power readings of her ship's weapons. Each gun was designed to punch through the armor of enemy battleships. Her missile launchers carried enough firepower to crack small moons. For most species, these would be planet-killing superweapons. For humans, they were standard defensive equipment. Lisa hoped that if they did have to fight, they could do it without creating any new asteroid fields, or accidentally damaging any stars. But knowing human luck, she wasn't very optimistic about their chances. Admiral Kexathera's personal shuttle approached Earth's Luna station with a desperation she had never felt before. Her crystal features reflected the blue glow of Earth hanging in space nearby. She had never imagined she would be here, asking the humans for help. The past week had been a disaster. 3 more star systems had fallen to the Vorthak Empire. The proud Trilaxian fleet was down to scattered survivors. Even the ancient Eldari had lost their first major engagement in over 1,000 years. As her shuttle docked with the human space station, Kexathera tried to prepare herself for what she was about to do. Everything in her military training told her this was a mistake, but everything in her heart told her it was the only choice left. Admiral Frank Hudson met her at the airlock, along with General Patricia Hayes. Both humans looked tired but determined. They led her through corridors that seemed strange compared to the flowing organic designs she was used to. Everything here was built for function rather than beauty. "Admiral Kexathera," General Hayes said as they entered a briefing room, "I'm sorry to hear about your losses." "Thank you," Kexathera replied. "I wish I was here under better circumstances." Admiral Hudson activated a holographic display showing the current strategic situation. The red zones marking Vorthak territory had grown significantly since the last time she had seen the maps. "We've been monitoring the conflict," Admiral Hudson said. "Your people have fought bravely, but the Vorthak have advantages that conventional galactic forces can't counter." Kexathera nodded sadly. "Their quantum disruptors make our shields useless. Their adaptive systems learn from every engagement. We can't find a way to hurt them effectively." "But you think human forces might be different?" General Hayes asked. "Your technology is based on completely different principles," Kexathera admitted. "Our intelligence suggests that human weapons might be able to penetrate Vorthak defenses." The 2 human officers exchanged glances. Admiral Hudson spoke carefully. "Admiral, you understand our reputation. Human military operations tend to cause extensive collateral damage." "I know," Kexathera said quietly. "But we're running out of options. If we can't stop the Vorthak advance soon, they'll reach the core worlds. Billions of innocent people will die." General Hayes leaned back in her chair. "If we agree to help, can you promise that your people won't blame us for the consequences? Human warfare is not gentle. At this point, Kexthera replied, I'm more worried about losing the war than about how we win it. Admiral Hudson activated another display showing human fleet positions. We can have a task force at the front lines within 48 hours, but you need to understand what you're asking for. Tell me. Our light patrol vessels carry more firepower than most alien dreadnoughts, General Hayes explained. Our standard engagement protocols involve overwhelming force applied as quickly as possible. We don't fight carefully. Kexthera thought about the beautiful ships of her fleet, now reduced to wreckage floating in space. Perhaps it's time to stop fighting carefully. Meanwhile, Captain Lisa Morgan was completing her defensive patrol of the Arcturus system. The Vorthak task force that had been attacking the Trilaxians was now nothing but glowing debris. Her crew had performed exactly as expected, with devastating effectiveness. Captain, reported Commander Tony Walsh, we're receiving a priority message from Earth Command. Put it through. Admiral Hudson's face appeared on the main screen. Captain Morgan, report your status. All systems nominal, Admiral. We've completed our reconnaissance mission. I see. And the Vorthak forces that were reported in your area? Lisa kept her expression neutral. They interfered with our patrol operations, sir. We were forced to defend ourselves. Understood. How many enemy ships were involved in this interference? 12 Vorthak destroyers and 1 heavy cruiser, Admiral. All confirmed destroyed. Admiral Hudson was quiet for a moment. Captain, did you use your full weapons load? Oh, no, sir. We were very restrained. We only used our point defense systems and light missiles. The Admiral looked like he was trying not to laugh. What Lisa called restrained would be considered a devastating bombardment by galactic standards. Very good, Captain. You're ordered to rendezvous with Task Force 7 at coordinates that are being transmitted to you now. Task Force 7, sir? You're being reinforced. The Galactic Council has reconsidered their position on human assistance. Lisa felt a surge of excitement. Finally, they were going to see some real action. Who's commanding the task force? You. Our Captain. You're being promoted to Commodore, effective immediately. Lisa tried to hide her smile. Thank you, sir. What are my orders? Proceed to Kepler Station and assist in its defense. But Lisa... Admiral Hudson's expression became serious. Try to keep the explosions to a minimum. We're still hoping to maintain good relations with our alien allies. Understood, Admiral. Minimum explosions. After the communication ended, Commander Walsh looked at his new Commodore with amusement. Minimum explosions, ma'am? That's right, Tony. We'll only destroy things that are actually shooting at us. And what if they miss? Then we'll show them how it's done properly. 2 days later, Lisa's task force arrived at Kepler Station. She now commanded 4 ships, her own Defiance, plus the battleships Thunderchild, Indomitable, and Ragnarok. Each ship was considered a light patrol vessel by human standards, but they carried enough firepower to level continents. Captain Steve Davis of the Thunderchild opened a communication channel to the task force. Commodore, we're detecting Vorthak scout ships on the edge of the system. Rules of engagement? Asked Captain Maria Santos from the Indomitable. Lisa thought about Admiral Hudson's instructions to minimize damage. We'll try the diplomatic approach. First, broadcast surrender demands on all frequencies. And if they don't surrender? Asked Captain Jake Thompson from the Ragnarok. Lisa smiled grimly. Then we'll demonstrate why the Galactic Council was afraid to let us join this war. The Vorthak Scouts detected the human ships and immediately began transmitting data back to their main fleet. They had heard rumors about human capabilities, but seeing 4 human battleships in person was a different experience entirely. War Master Zektoth, commanding the Vorthak assault fleet, received the scout reports with growing alarm. According to his intelligence, these were supposed to be minor patrol vessels. But the energy signatures his ships were detecting suggested something much more dangerous. "Are you certain of these readings?" he asked his sensor operator. "Yes, War Master. Each human ship appears to be generating power levels equivalent to our largest dreadnoughts." Zektoth studied the tactical display. 4 human ships against his fleet of 60 vessels should be an easy victory. But something about the situation made him nervous. "Maintain surveillance distance," he ordered. "Do not engage until I give the command." Light years away at Luna Station, Admiral Kexathera was signing the formal cooperation agreement with General Hayes. The document would authorize joint military operations between human and galactic forces. "I hope we're making the right decision," Kexathera said as she added her crystal signature to the treaty. "So do I," General Hayes replied. "But I promise you this. If humans are fighting beside you, the Vorthak will definitely notice." As the treaty was signed, neither of them knew that the first engagement was already about to begin. At Kepler Station, Commodore Lisa Morgan was about to show the galaxy exactly why the Council had been so afraid of human military assistance. The war was about to change in ways that no one could have predicted. Commodore Lisa Morgan stood on the bridge of the Defiance, watching the Vorthak scout ships move carefully around the edge of the Kepler system. Her task force was positioned in a defensive formation around the massive space station that served as a major supply hub for the Galactic Fleet. "Commodore," reported her communications officer, "we're receiving a transmission from Kepler Station. Station Commander Velnix wants to speak with you." "Put him through." The main screen showed an elderly Eldari with purple skin marked by deep worry lines. Behind him, Lisa could see the busy control center of the station, with dozens of different alien species working together. "Commodore Morgan," Commander Velnix said, "we are honored to have human protection, but are you certain 4 ships will be enough? Our sensors show at least 60 Vorthak vessels approaching." Lisa tried to keep her expression humble. "We'll do our best, Commander. Human ships are well-equipped for this kind of work." After ending the communication, Commander Tony Walsh approached her command chair. "Commodore, the Vorthak scouts are maintaining their distance. Should we move to intercept?" "Not yet," Lisa replied. "Let's try to follow proper galactic engagement protocols. Open a channel to the Vorthak ships." Her communications officer looked surprised. "Ma'am, they're enemy vessels." "Admiral Hudson wants us to minimize unnecessary destruction," Lisa explained. "That means we give them a chance to surrender before we blow them up." The communication was broadcast on all frequencies, both in standard galactic and in what their computers thought might be Vorthak language. Lisa's voice carried clearly across space. "Attention, Vorthak vessels. This is Commodore Lisa Morgan of the Earth Defense Forces. You are approaching a neutral space station under galactic protection. Withdraw immediately or surrender to avoid destruction." The response came quickly. Instead of words, the Vorthak scouts opened fire with their quantum disruptors. Bright energy beams lanced across space toward the human ships. Lisa watched the tactical display as the enemy weapons struck her ship's hull. The Defiance's armor absorbed the hits without any noticeable damage. Her ship didn't even shake from the impact. "Well," Lisa said calmly, "we tried the diplomatic approach." "Commodore," reported her tactical officer, "enemy weapons appear to..." be completely ineffective against our armor. Their quantum disruptors can't penetrate our hull plating. What about our weapons? Lisa asked. All systems ready, ma'am. Target locks acquired on all enemy vessels. Lisa thought about her orders to minimize collateral damage. She also thought about the fact that the Vorthak had shot first, which technically made this self-defense. All ships. This is Commodore Morgan. Engage the enemy. Try to use minimum force. Captain Steve Davis responded from the Thunderchild. Define minimum force, Commodore. Point defense systems only. Let's see how they handle our small guns first. What Lisa called small guns were actually the Defiance's secondary weapon systems. Each point defense laser was designed to shoot down incoming missiles and fighter craft. By human standards, they were barely worth mentioning. The result was spectacular. The first laser burst struck a Vorthak scout ship and cut it completely, in half. The second scout exploded in a brilliant fireball that lit up the entire system. Within 30 seconds, all 6 Vorthak scouts had been reduced to glowing debris. Commodore, Commander Walsh said quietly, I think we may have used too much force. Lisa studied the tactical display. Where 6 enemy ships had been, there was now only an expanding cloud of superheated gas and metal fragments. Those were our point defense systems? She asked. Yes, ma'am. Minimum power settings. Lisa sighed. This was exactly the kind of thing that made alien species nervous about human military assistance. She had tried to be gentle, and she had still completely vaporized the enemy. Send a message to the main Vorthak fleet, she ordered. Tell them, their scouts fired first, and we responded with minimum force. They can withdraw now, or will be forced to use our actual weapons. Aboard the Vorthak command ship Darkness Eternal, War Master Zektoth stared at the sensor readings in disbelief. His 6 scouts had been destroyed in less than a minute by weapons that barely registered on his threat assessment scale. Are you certain these readings are correct? He asked his tactical officer. Yes, War Master. The human ships used what appear to be point defense systems, yet they completely destroyed our scouts. Zektoth had been fighting galactic forces for months. He knew exactly how powerful their weapons were and how to counter them. But these humans seemed to operate by completely different rules. What do our intelligence files say about human military capabilities? He asked. His intelligence officer consulted his data banks. Very limited information, War Master. The Galactic Council has classified most human military data. We know they have a reputation for causing excessive destruction, but we assumed this was exaggeration. Apparently not, Zektoth muttered. He studied the tactical display showing the 4 human ships. According to every military principle he knew, 4 ships could not possibly stand against his fleet of 60 vessels. But those 4 ships had just destroyed his scouts without taking any damage in return. War Master, reported his communications officer, we're receiving a transmission from the human fleet. Put it through. Commodore Morgan's image appeared on his screen. She looked calm and professional, like someone discussing the weather rather than threatening to destroy his entire fleet. War Master Zektoth, she said, your scouts opened fire on our task force without provocation. We responded with minimal force to defend ourselves. You now have one chance to withdraw your fleet from this system peacefully. Zektoth found his voice. Human, you are outnumbered 15-1. Surrender now, and we will spare your crews. Lisa's expression didn't change. War Master, I don't think you understand the situation. We are not outnumbered. You are outgunned. Impossible. 4 ships cannot defeat 60. Would you like us to demonstrate? Lisa asked politely. Before Zektoth could reply, his sensor operator called out in alarm. War Master, the human ships are powering up their main weapon systems. Energy readings are... This can't be right. What are the readings? Each human ship is generating power equivalent to our entire fleet combined. Zektoth felt a chill run through his body. For the first time in his long military career, he was beginning to understand why the Galactic Council had been so reluctant to involve humans in this war. Human Commodore, he said carefully, perhaps we should discuss terms. I already gave you the terms, Lisa replied. Withdraw from this system immediately. And if we refuse? Lisa's smile was not particularly reassuring. Then you'll discover why the rest of the galaxy is afraid of human battleships. Captain Jake Thompson's voice came over the tactical channel from the Ragnarok. Commodore, should we show them our main guns? Not yet, Jake. Let's give them a few minutes to think about it. Lisa turned to her crew. All ships maintain current positions. Weapons ready, but do not fire unless they attack first. Commander. Walsh looked at the tactical display showing 60 Vorthak warships. Think they'll be smart enough to leave? I hope so, Lisa replied. Because if they make us fight, there's going to be a lot of explaining to do when Admiral Hudson sees the after-action report. In space around Kepler Station, the two fleets faced each other in tense silence. On one side, 60 Vorthak warships that had conquered half the galaxy. On the other side, 4 human ships that the galaxy had been afraid to unleash. Everyone was about to find out who had made the right choice. War Master Zektoth had 30 seconds to make the most important decision of his military career. His fleet of 60 warships surrounded the 4 human vessels, but the power readings from those ships made him question everything he thought. He knew about warfare. War Master, his tactical officer reported, the human ships are maintaining position. No aggressive movement detected. Zektoth studied the tactical display one more time. Every instinct told him that 4 ships could not possibly defeat his entire fleet, but the complete destruction of his scouts suggested that human military technology operated by rules he didn't understand. Signal the fleet, he decided. Attack formation. All ships target the human vessels. War Master, his intelligence officer interrupted. Perhaps we should reconsider. The Galactic database contains warnings about human military capabilities. Warnings from defeated enemies, Zektoth replied. I will not be frightened by propaganda. The Vorthak fleet began moving into attack formation. 60 ships arranged themselves in a complex pattern designed to overwhelm any defensive position. Their quantum disruptors charged to full power, ready to tear through the strongest defenses the galaxy had ever created. Aboard the Defiance, Commodore Lisa Morgan watched the enemy ships move into position. She had hoped they would choose to withdraw, but apparently the Vorthak were going to do this the hard way. All ships, this is Commodore Morgan, she announced on the Task Force command channel. Enemy fleet is moving to attack formation. We are cleared to engage with full defensive measures, Captain Steve Davis responded from the Thunder Child. Confirmed, Commodore. What are our targeting priorities? Try to disable their command ships first, Lisa ordered. Maybe we can end this quickly without destroying their entire fleet. Understood. Using precision targeting, Captain Maria Santos called in from the Indomitable. Commodore, should we use our main guns or stick with secondary weapons? Lisa thought about Admiral Hudson's orders to minimize destruction. She also thought about the 60 enemy ships that were about to start shooting at her task force. Use. Whatever you think is appropriate, Maria. Just try not to accidentally destroy any planets. There aren't any planets in this system, Commodore. Then try not to accidentally create any new star formations. The Vorthak fleet opened fire first. Hundreds of quantum disruptor beams lanced across space toward the human ships. The weapons that had cut through every galactic defense struck the human vessels and accomplished absolutely nothing. The Defiance's armor didn't even heat up from the impact. The ship's shields weren't raised because they didn't need to be. Human. Military engineering was based on the principle that if your armor couldn't stop the enemy's best shot, you probably shouldn't be in a fight. "Commodore," reported Commander Walsh, "enemy weapons are having no effect. Their quantum disruptors can't penetrate our hull plating." "What about our weapons?" Lisa asked. "All systems ready. Target solutions locked on enemy vessels." Lisa took a deep breath. "All ships, engage the enemy. Try to make it quick." What happened next became known throughout the galaxy as the Kepler demonstration. Military historians would study it for decades, trying to understand how 4 ships had accomplished what seemed impossible. The Thunderchild fired first. Captain Davis had selected what he considered a gentle approach, using the ship's main plasma cannons at 50% power. The result was a beam of energy that punched through 3 Vorthak ships in a row before dissipating harmlessly into space. "Oops," Captain Davis muttered. "Maybe 40% power next time." Captain Santos, aboard the Indomitable, decided to try a different approach. She used the ship's missile systems, selecting the smallest warheads available. The missiles were designed for point defense against fighter craft, so they should cause minimal damage to capital ships. The first missile struck a Vorthak heavy cruiser and split it neatly in half. The explosion was so bright that it temporarily overloaded the sensors of nearby ships. The second missile completely vaporized a destroyer. "Maria," Lisa called over the command channel, "what were those warheads rated for?" "Standard anti-fighter." "Missiles, Commodore. 5 kiloton yield." Lisa winced. What humans considered standard anti-fighter weapons would be classified as planet busters by most alien species. Captain Thompson on the Ragnarok was having similar problems. He had decided to use the ship's point defense lasers for precision targeting. The lasers were supposed to disable enemy ships by targeting their weapon systems. Instead, each laser pulse cut completely through the Vorthak vessels, leaving them as floating wreckage. The precision targeting was working perfectly. It was just that human precision tools were more powerful than alien main weapons. "Jake," Lisa said, "maybe try using the ship's communications array instead of the weapons." "The communications array? At this point, I'm worried our sensor pings might accidentally sink something." Aboard the Vorthak command ship, War Master, Zektoth watched his fleet being systematically destroyed and tried to understand what was happening. His ships were dying faster than he could count them, but the human vessels seemed to be barely trying. "Status report," he demanded. 30 ships destroyed, War Master. The humans appear to be using some kind of super weapon technology." "What kind of super weapons?" "That's the problem, War Master. Our sensors indicate they're using standard point defense systems and light missiles, but the power output is impossible." Zektoth stared at the tactical display. Half his fleet was gone, and the human ships hadn't even moved from their defensive positions. It was like watching children with toys destroy a professional military. "Force. Signal retreat," he ordered. "All surviving ships withdraw immediately." "War Master, we still outnumber them 20-1. "Look at your sensors," Zektoth snapped. "They're destroying our ships with their communications equipment. What do you think will happen if they start using their actual weapons?" The surviving Vorthak ships began a hasty retreat, leaving behind a debris field that would take years to clear. As they fled, Zektoth sent an urgent message to the Vorthak High Command. "Unknown superweapon deployment confirmed," his message read. "Human military capabilities exceed all estimates. Recommend immediate strategic withdrawal before they deploy their main battle fleet." At Kepler Station, Station Commander Velnix watched the battle end with amazement. 40 Vorthak ships had been destroyed in less than 10 minutes, and the human task force hadn't taken any damage at all. "Commodore Morgan," he called on the communication channel. "That was the most impressive display of military power I have ever witnessed." "Thank you, Commander," Lisa replied, "though we were trying to be gentle." "Gentle? We only used our secondary weapon systems. Admiral Hudson specifically asked us to minimize collateral damage." Velnix looked at the expanding debris field that had once been a Vorthak fleet. "This was your minimal response?" "We didn't want to overreact," Lisa explained. "Human military doctrine emphasizes proportional response." As the surviving Vorthak ships disappeared into hyperspace, Lisa began composing her after-action report. She wasn't looking forward to explaining to Admiral Hudson why her minimal defensive engagement had resulted in the complete destruction of 2/3 of the enemy fleet. On the other hand, she reflected, at least they hadn't accidentally blown up any stars this time. That had to count as progress. The news of the Battle of Kepler Station spread across the galaxy faster than light itself. Within hours, every military commander in known space had heard about the 4 human ships that had destroyed 40 Vorthak vessels without taking a single hit in return. War Master Zektoth's message reached the Vorthak High Command just as they were planning their next major offensive. The message was brief but terrifying. "Humans have deployed unknown superweapons. Recommend immediate strategic withdrawal before total fleet destruction." Supreme War Master Capcut read the report 3 times before believing it. Zektoth was one of their most competent commanders, not given to panic or exaggeration. If he said the humans had superweapons, then something unprecedented had happened. "Contact all fleet commanders," Capcut ordered. "Implement Protocol 7 immediately." Protocol 7 was the Vorthak Empire's emergency retreat plan designed for situations where they faced an enemy they couldn't defeat. It had never been used before in the Empire's 1,000-year history of conquest. Within days, Vorthak fleets across the galaxy began withdrawing from their conquered territories. They left behind abandoned bases, confused allies, and a power vacuum that would take years to fill. At Earth's Strategic Command, General Patricia Hayes read Commodore Morgan's after-action report with a mixture of pride and horror. The battle had been a complete success by any military standard, but the political consequences were going to be complicated. "Admiral Hudson," she called out, "we need to talk." Admiral Frank Hudson approached her desk, already knowing what the conversation would be about. "The Galactic Council is calling for another emergency meeting, isn't it? 3 different ambassadors have contacted Earth demanding explanations," Patricia confirmed. "Apparently our minimal defensive engagement created a debris field visible from 6 star systems. How many Vorthak ships did we actually destroy?" 40 confirmed kills. 20 more ships fled with heavy damage. Commodore Morgan's task force suffered 0 casualties and reported minimal ammunition expenditure. Admiral Hudson rubbed his temples. "Let me guess. She used point defense systems and training missiles." "Exactly. What we consider practice ammunition, the galaxy considers weapons of mass destruction." Meanwhile, at the Galactic Council chambers, another emergency session was underway. This time, the atmosphere was very different from previous meetings. Instead of desperation, There was a mixture of relief and terror. Admiral Kexathera stood before the council, delivering her report on the human intervention. Her crystal features reflected the holographic displays showing the retreating Vorthak fleets. The human task force performed exactly as promised, she reported. They stopped the Vorthak advance and forced a general retreat across all fronts. At what cost? Asked Speaker Nothram nervously. That's complicated, Kexthera admitted. The humans suffered no casualties and used what they describe as minimal force. Councillor Veltar leaned forward in his chair. How do they define minimal force? Apparently, they only used their secondary weapon systems and practice ammunition. According to Commodore Morgan, they were being very careful not to cause excessive damage. The council chamber fell silent as everyone processed this information. If the humans had destroyed 40 enemy ships while being careful, what would happen if they actually tried to fight seriously? There's more, Kexathera continued. The Vorthak Empire appears to be in full retreat. Our intelligence suggests they believe humans have deployed some kind of ultimate weapon. Ambassador Daniel Carter stood up from his seat at the back of the chamber. If I may address the council? Please do, Ambassador, Councillor Veltar said. Daniel walked to the center of the room, looking somewhat embarrassed. I want to assure everyone that Earth has no ultimate weapons. What you witnessed at Kepler Station was a routine defensive engagement using standard human military equipment. Standard equipment? Speaker Nothram's voice rose to a squeak. Yes. Commodore Morgan's task force consists of light patrol vessels. They're not even considered frontline warships by our standards. The implications of this statement hit the Council like a physical blow. If these were light patrol vessels, what were human frontline warships capable of? Ambassador, Councillor Veltar said carefully, what would constitute a major engagement by human standards? Daniel thought about this question seriously. Well, that would involve our main battle fleet. We have 12 super dreadnoughts, 30 heavy battleships, and about 200 support vessels. And their weapons? Much more powerful than what you saw at Kepler Station. Our main battle fleet is designed to fight enemies with planet-killing capabilities. The council chamber erupted in panicked discussions. Several representatives began drafting emergency legislation to limit human military involvement in future conflicts. Later that day, Admiral Kexathera met privately with Admiral Hudson at Luna Station. They sat in the observation lounge, watching Earth rotate slowly beneath them. Admiral Hudson, Kexathera said, I owe you an apology. When we first asked for your help, I was worried about human military methods. Now I'm terrified by your restraint. What do you mean? Your people could have ended this war in hours if you wanted to. Instead, you let us struggle for months before intervening. And even then, you used only the minimum force necessary. Admiral Hudson nodded slowly. That's the human way, Admiral. We prefer to solve problems without violence when possible. When violence becomes necessary, we try to end it quickly. But the power you displayed, it's beyond anything the galaxy has ever seen. Earth has been preparing for threats that most species can't imagine, Admiral Hudson explained. Our military doctrine assumes we might face enemies with star-destroying weapons or reality-altering technology. Conventional galactic warfare is less challenging than what we train for. Kexathera was quiet for a long moment. What happens now? Now we help you rebuild, Admiral Hudson said. Human Engineering Corps are already heading to the damaged systems. We'll help restore the space stations and clear the debris fields. And if there are future conflicts, Admiral Hudson smiled grimly. Let's hope there aren't any. The galaxy has seen what happens when humans fight defensively. I don't think anyone wants to find out what happens when we fight offensively. Back at the Galactic Council, the final vote was unanimous. The new Galactic Defense Treaty included several specific clauses regarding human military assistance. Article 12. Human military forces may be requested only in cases of existential threat to galactic civilization. Article 13. All civilian populations within 50 light years of human combat operations must be evacuated prior to engagement. Article 14. Human forces are authorized to use their discretion in defining minimal force, but are requested to provide advance warning when possible. Ambassador Daniel. Carter signed the treaty on behalf of Earth, though he still didn't fully understand why everyone seemed so nervous about human military capabilities. As the council session ended, Speaker Nothram approached him privately. "Ambassador," Nothram said, "can I ask you a personal question?" "Of course. When humans fight among yourselves, how do you avoid destroying your entire planet?" Daniel looked puzzled. "We don't fight with military weapons in populated areas. That would be irresponsible. But what do you use for personal conflicts?" "Words, mostly. Sometimes lawyers." Nothram considered this. "Perhaps that explains why you're so terrifying in space. You save all your violence for enemies who really deserve it." 6 months later, the galaxy had settled into a new normal. The Vorthak Empire had retreated beyond the galactic rim and showed no signs of returning. Trade routes were reopening, and reconstruction was proceeding faster than anyone had expected. Commodore Lisa Morgan, now promoted to Admiral, maintained her patrol duties along the frontier. Her task force had been expanded to include alien liaison officers who helped explain human intentions to worried civilian populations. The war was over, but everyone understood that it had ended not through superior strategy or advanced technology, but because humanity had chosen to fight gently. The knowledge that humans possessed such overwhelming power, yet used it so carefully, became the foundation of a new galactic peace. And in the depths of space, human patrol ships continued their quiet missions, ready to defend the innocent while trying very hard not to accidentally save the galaxy too enthusiastically. Admiral Kexathara stood on the bridge of her flagship, the Starweaver, watching her beautiful fleet being torn apart. The Vorthak Empire had struck without warning at the Proxima Drift system, and her carefully planned defensive formation was collapsing. "All ships, retreat to minimum safe distance," she ordered, her crystal voice carrying clearly across the command channel. But it was too late for many of her vessels. The Vorthak quantum disruptors cut through Zephyrian crystal hulls like they were made of glass. Ships that had taken decades to grow in the singing gardens of her homeworld were reduced to glittering debris in minutes. "Admiral, the cruiser Harmony Song is requesting immediate assistance," reported her tactical officer. "Their hull is failing." Kexathara watched helplessly as another of her ships died. The Vorthak weapons were unlike anything they had faced before. Every defensive technology the galaxy had developed over thousands of years seemed useless against them. "Signal general retreat," she said finally. "All ships fall back to rally point 7. As her surviving ships limped away from the battle zone, Kexathara thought about the human offer of assistance. She had voted against it along with the rest of the council, but now she was beginning to wonder if they had made a mistake. 3 days later, the Galactic Council held another emergency meeting. This time, the atmosphere was much more desperate. Admiral Kexathara's defeat at Proxima Drift had been followed by similar disasters across the entire front line. Counselor Veltar looked older than his 3,000 years as he reviewed the battle reports. We have lost 17 major fleet engagements in the past week. The Vorthak advance continues unopposed. Speaker Nothram's antenna drooped with exhaustion. My people's battle fleet is down to 30% strength. War Speaker Thondal barely escaped the disaster at Helix Nebula with his life. The holographic displays around the council chamber showed the grim statistics. Red markers indicated systems under Vorthak control. Yellow markers showed systems currently under attack. The green markers for safe territory were shrinking every day. Their weapons adapt to our defenses, Admiral Kexathera reported. Every time we develop a new shield frequency or armor type, the Vorthak adjust their disruptors to counter it. It's like fighting an enemy that can read our minds. In a corner of the chamber, Ambassador Daniel Carter sat quietly and listened to the discussions. He had not spoken since the Council's initial rejection of human assistance, but his presence seemed to make everyone uncomfortable. Finally, Counselor Veltar addressed him directly. Ambassador Carter, Earth's intelligence services are quite advanced. Do your people have any analysis of Vorthak capabilities? Daniel consulted his datapad before answering. Our military analysts have been studying the battle footage you've shared with us. They've identified several tactical weaknesses in Vorthak formations. What kind of weaknesses? Admiral Kexathera asked hopefully. Well, Daniel said carefully, General Hayes noted that Vorthak ships tend to bunch together in tight formations. She suggested that ramming attacks might be effective. The alien council members looked at each other with expressions of horror. Speaker Nothram's voice rose to a squeak. Ramming attacks? That's not tactics, that's suicide. Not if you do it right, Daniel replied. You use your heaviest ships to break up their formation, then follow up with concentrated fire from your escorts. How many ships would we lose in such an attack? Counselor Veltar asked. Daniel checked his notes again. General Hayes estimated about 40% casualties among the ramming force. The chamber erupted in shocked protests. No galactic military commander would consider a plan that guaranteed such massive losses among their own forces. That's barbaric, Admiral Kexathera said. We don't sacrifice our people like that. But you're losing them anyway, Daniel pointed out. At least this way, you'd be taking some enemies with you. Meanwhile, far from the council chambers, Captain Lisa Morgan was conducting her extended reconnaissance mission near the war zone. The Defiance had rescued 3 groups of refugee ships and was currently providing escort for a convoy of medical supplies heading to Kepler Station. Captain, reported her sensor operator, I'm detecting massive energy signatures from the Arcturus system. It looks like another major battle. Lisa studied the tactical display. The energy readings were enormous, even by the standards of this war. Something big was happening. Any distress calls? She asked. Multiple signals, ma'am. It sounds like the Trilaxian defense fleet is getting hammered. Lisa made a decision that would have horrified the Galactic Council. Set course for Arcturus. Maximum speed. Captain, Commander Walsh said quietly, we're not supposed to engage enemy forces. We're not engaging, Lisa replied. We're conducting a rescue operation, completely different thing. The Defiance accelerated toward the battle zone, its powerful engines pushing the ship faster than most alien vessels could manage. As they got closer, the scope of the disaster became clear. The Trilaxian fleet was being systematically destroyed by a Vorthak task force. Beautiful insect-like ships that had served for centuries were being cut apart by quantum disruptors. The Trilaxians fought bravely, but their weapons seemed to have no effect on the enemy. "Captain," said the communications officer, "we're receiving a transmission from the Trilaxian flagship. War Speaker Thondal is requesting immediate assistance from any available forces." Lisa looked at her bridge crew. They all knew what their orders were. They also knew that hundreds of Trilaxian lives were about to be lost. "Open a channel to the Trilaxian fleet," she decided. War Speaker Thondal appeared on the main screen. His insect features were marked with stress, and his bright blue armor was scarred from battle damage. Behind him, Lisa could see smoke and sparks from damaged systems. "Human ship," Thondal said desperately. "We require immediate assistance. Our fleet is being destroyed." "I understand," Lisa replied, "but I'm under orders not to engage in combat operations." "Then what good are you?" Thondal snapped, his antenna rigid with anger. Lisa was quiet for a moment. She thought about her orders from Admiral Hudson. She thought about the Galactic Council's decision to keep humans out of the war. She thought about all the reasons why human military intervention was considered dangerous. Then she thought about the hundreds of Trilaxian crew members who were about to die while she watched from a safe distance. "War Speaker," she said finally, "I can't engage in combat operations, but I can conduct a defensive patrol of this area. If any hostile forces happen to interfere with my patrol, I'm authorized to defend myself." A slow smile spread across Thondal's insect features. "I understand completely, Captain. Please conduct your patrol very thoroughly." Lisa turned to her crew. "Red alert! All hands to battle stations. We're about to defend ourselves very enthusiastically." As the Defiance powered up its weapons and turned toward the Vorthak fleet, Lisa wondered if she was about to save the day or accidentally start the first galactic war involving humans. Knowing human luck, it would probably be both.